The faces were watching her. Arya Stark knew that was impossible. Eyes plucked from skulls could not follow. But every time she turned, the rows of dead seemed to lean nearer, as if listening for her next breath. The hall of faces climbed above and dropped below into blackness. A column of stone carved with niches, each cradling skin stretched like parchment over bone. Torchlight wavered, making 1,000 strangers seem to wake, to sleep, to smirk. She stood barefoot on the cold stone, the weight of a stranger's face hanging from her hands. It was soft, like wet leather, heavier than it looked. The air smelled of dust and coin, and the bitter ghosts of incense burned 100 years ago. The kindly man waited in the gloom near the pool, his robe the color of old ash, his hands folded, his own face one she could no longer be sure of. "Girl hesitates," he said at last, voice echoing in the vastness. "She has worn many faces. Why does she flinch from this one?" Arya swallowed. The face in her grip had once belonged to a woman with a crooked nose and a line at the corner of her mouth, as if she had smiled too much or not enough. There was nothing special about it. That was the trouble. "She looks like anyone," Arya murmured. "Anyone is everyone," the kindly man replied. "We are tools. The many-faced god is the hand that wields." She should have been past this. She had drunk from the pool, scrubbed the corpses, learned the lies that made other lies crumble. She had watched Jaqen Hagar change as easily as breathing. She had played the mummer, the orphan, the blind beggar girl. A wolf, she sometimes thought, hiding beneath all those skins. Today, the wolf's hackles were up. Arya lifted the face to her own. The cool flesh kissed her cheeks, her brow, her lips. The sticky lining clung, then settled, and in the slow, prickling rush that followed, she felt herself slipping sideways, her sense of her own bones sliding as if they were beads on a string. The hall spun once and then steadied. Breathing felt foreign, like it belonged to someone standing near her. "Look," the kindly man said. He raised the torch toward a tall, warped mirror at the far end of the hall. Arya padded toward it, the sound of her bare feet small in that enormous silence. A stranger stared back. Crooked nose, lined mouth, eyes like muddy water. But the eyes sharpened as Arya glared, and for a heartbeat she saw herself beneath. A skinny girl from Winterfell with a sword named Needle and a list she whispered to the dark. The image flickered. In the mirror, for just an instant, the stranger's face changed again. Not into Arya, not into any face she knew. The cheeks grew fuller, the jaw softer. Fair hair tangled, soaked in something black and red. A feast hall rose behind her, dim and smoky, candles guttering. Music played thin and reedy. Crossbow strings glinted above. Blood sprayed across the glass. Arya staggered back, heart hammering. The vision vanished. The crooked-nosed woman looked out once more, dull and ordinary. "What was that?" Arya asked, ripping the face from her skin. Her own features snapped back into place with a painful tingling that made her wince. "That wasn't... I saw. The many-faced god shows what he wills," the kindly man said, his voice softer now. "Sometimes he lifts a corner of the veil for one who serves faithfully." "That was a hall," Arya insisted. "A feast. Men with crossbows in the rafters. And," she swallowed, "there was a wolf, on a man's doublet. A gray dire wolf." The word hung between them like a bell note. Wolf. The kindly man's gaze rested on her with a weight that had nothing of kindness in it. "Come," he said. "The candles are nearly burned. There is more the girl must see." The temple above the hall was emptier than usual. The acolytes had been dismissed to their quiet chores. The braziers smoldered low, exhaling thin ribbons of fragrant smoke that curled around the carved pillars. Only the silent god remained. A tall stone idol whose many faces watched from every angle. Kind mother and savage stranger, lion and weeping maiden, half-crumbled titan and faceless void. At the center lay the pool, still and lightless until the candles were brought near. Arya knelt on the chill tiles beside it, her knees aching through the thin cloth of her robe. The kindly man sat opposite her, knees folded, a small bone-handled knife resting in his palm. "Cup your hands," he said. Arya obeyed. He drew the knife across his thumb. Just a shallow cut, but the blood that welled up was dark and thick, like old wine. He let 3 drops fall into her waiting hands and then tipped them into the pool. The surface shivered, ripples racing outward, and in the ripples images began to stir. Arya had seen this once before, when she had first come as a begging girl to the House of Black and White. Then the pool had shown her a ship and a storm, a set of gates closing. She had not understood. She was older now. She had names even if she pretended she did not. The water cleared. At first it showed only torchlight catching on stone. A vaulted ceiling, banners hanging from rafters. Above a crowded feast, a scowling bridge lord with a sharp nose and watery eyes raising a cup. Walder Frey, Arya thought, though she had seen the man only once from afar as she rode south with Yoren. The twins' hall lay spread beneath him, its long tables laden with roasted meats and trenchers of bread. Music swelled, and the image tipped as if the watcher's head had turned. A young man rose from his seat. Dark curls, a wolf on his breast, a crown of iron and bronze in his hair. Robb, Arya thought, so sharply that her fingers dug into her own legs. Catelyn Stark sat beside him, her face drawn tight, eyes searching the room. There was something wrong in her gaze. Every time she thinks she sees something wrong, a faceless servant glides by and corrects it, just enough to keep her suspicious yet alive. Servants refilled cups, too often, too eagerly. A chill crept up Arya's spine, though the temple was warm. The tune changed. Crossbows appeared in the balconies, as if conjured. Catelyn shot to her feet, arm outstretched, mouth forming her son's name. Walder Frey's lips curled. His wrinkled hand twitched. The first arrow thudded into Robb's shoulder. Arya lurched forward, a cry clawing its way up her throat. Her hand struck the pool. The vision blew apart, water slopping over the rim and soaking her robe. The hall faded. The music died. In its place, Arya saw only her own reflection. A narrow face, dark tangled hair, gray eyes burning. She was shaking. "No," she whispered. "No. That he's winning the war. He's king in the north." "The River Lords whisper that Lord Walder is displeased," the kindly man said. His hands rested lightly on his knees, the knife forgotten. "That King Robb Stark has broken a promise of marriage. An old man's pride can be a sharp blade." "How do you know this?" Arya demanded. "You're here. We're in Braavos. You're not there." "The house has ears at many harbors," he said. "The girl knows this. Men and women seek us out when death hangs near. They pay with coin, with names, with secrets." His gaze flicked to the pool. "Sometimes they pay with visions. The god shows where the balance of life and death totters. He offers us work." "Work?" Arya's voice was bitter. "Killing my family is work? We do not choose which lives hang in the balance," he replied. "We only adjust the scales as we are paid to do. Death comes for kings and beggars, for wolves and lions. The god is not cruel, only inevitable." She thought of the arrows, of Robb's body jerking beneath the impact, of Catelyn's hand reaching too late. "I won't let that happen," Arya said. The words scraped raw. "I won't." A flicker of something, interest perhaps, crossed the kindly man's face. "The girl clings to her name," he murmured. "To her pack." "I am Arya Stark," she said, each syllable a small defiance. "I remember the taste of Winterfell's snow. I remember my father's voice. I remember everything." Her list burned on her tongue. Joffrey, Cersei, Island Pain, the Tickler, Polliver. New names added themselves unbidden. Walder Frey, Roose Bolton. "To save a life the god has marked," the kindly man said slowly, "another must be given. To change the song there is always a price. Will the girl swear to pay it, if the time comes?" Arya stared into the dark pool. Robb's face shimmered there, half-formed, like a reflection caught in a broken mirror. Behind him she glimpsed another face, one she had missed in the chaos. Tall, lean, clad in black with a sword at his hip. Jon. Her brother, her bastard brother, the crow who had flown to the wall. "I'll pay," she whispered. "If it means Robb lives. If it means my family lives. I'll pay anything." The kindly man nodded once, grave as a judge. "Then rise, Arya Stark," he said. "Not no one. Not today. The god has work for you, and for others who will walk behind you, wearing many faces." The chamber beneath the house was smaller than the Hall of Faces, but the air felt just as heavy. The walls were bare save for the damp streaks left by slow, persistent leaks. There was only one table, low and narrow, scarred by knives and candle wax. On it lay a scattering of coins from half the known world. Silver stags and gold dragons, square Braavosi coppers, thin Volantine pieces stamped with ships and harpies. 3 figures sat around the table. They wore plain robes, hoods drawn, masks covering their features. One mask was made of smooth dark wood, simple as a child's toy. The second was beaten copper, dented and dull, one eye socket ringed in a verdigris tear. The third was bone, pale and fine, carved into the barest suggestion of a face. Arya felt all 3 sets of unseen eyes on her as she entered. The kindly man stayed by the door, hands in his sleeves. "This is the girl," he said, "the wolf who would tilt the scales." The mask of wood inclined slightly. "She smells of north wind," a man's voice observed, lightly accented, "and stubbornness. She has worn many faces and yet refuses to be no one," said the copper mask, the voice a woman's, low and unhurried. "That is dangerous. The god sometimes uses sharp stones, even if they cut his hand," murmured the bone mask. The voice there was soft and dry, old parchment rustling. "Tell us, child, what would you do if we carried you across the sea like a knife?" Arya looked at the coins. Some bore the crowned lion of House Lannister. A few were less familiar, stamped with sigils she did not know. Money that had paid for deaths. Money that had bought the vision in the pool. Her hands curled into fists at her sides. "I'd go home," Arya said. "To the north. To my brother Jon at the wall first. He'll listen. He'll help. Then to Robb, before he reaches the twins." "You speak as if the road were clear," the wooden mask said. "There is war in the Riverlands. Bands of broken men, wolves and lions both. The Blackwater burned. The sea is not so safe as when you came." "I can be anyone," Arya replied. "A merchant's daughter, cabin boy, a stable girl. You taught me how to vanish. Yet you would be seen in the end," the copper mask said. "By Robb Stark, by Jon Snow, by those you would save. Once they see you, there is no going back to the house. You would not be ours, but your own again." Arya's heart throbbed in her chest, a painful, hopeful ache. "Then I'd be mine," the bone mask inclined. "We will not walk this path for sentiment," the old voice said. "The god is not swayed by tears, but the river of deaths that would flow from that hall, should the twins' feast go unchallenged. Too many skewed to one side. Too many promised to lion and leech." "The leech is the Dreadfort," the wooden mask murmured. "Roose Bolton plays both sides. His coin has crossed the sea more than once." As if in answer, the kindly man placed 3 coins on the table. A lion-stamped gold, a dull northern piece with the flayed man of Bolton, and a thin Braavosi coin with a hole in the center. 3 names, he said. 3 deaths to answer 1,000. "Walder Frey," the copper mask said, touching the lion coin. "He sells guest right like rotten meat." "Roose Bolton," the wooden mask added, tapping the northern coin. "Leech Lord, Promise Breaker, Quiet Blade." "And one more," the bone mask whispered, fingers resting on the Braavosi coin. "Not named yet, a shadow in the capital. The hand that pushes the first stone." Arya's breath quickened. "Tywin Lannister, perhaps," the old voice said. "Or perhaps another. King Joffrey, who commands the storm. Queen Cersei, who fans it. The god will show us in time. For now, we agree. The hall at the twins must not belong only to the Frey's butchery. The wooden mask turned toward Arya. You will not go alone, child. We are not so foolish as to throw a single knife at 3 armored men. 3 of us will walk with you, the copper mask said. Faces can be changed. Names can be borrowed. Death, however, is constant. Do you accept this? The bone mask asked. The god has heard your promise. To take life that would be taken, to spare life that would be slain, you have sworn to pay later with a death of equal weight. When he calls, you must answer. There is no running. Not to Winterfell, not to the ends of the earth. Arya thought of Robb, crowned amid his bannermen, of Jon standing atop the wall, the wind in his hair, of Sansa, trapped in a golden cage, of Bran and Rickon, dead or lost. She thought of her father's head on a spike, of Needle lying buried beneath a rock outside a city that had never been hers. I accept, she said. The masks bowed their heads. For a heartbeat, Arya felt another presence in the room, vast and cold and strangely compassionate, like a hand resting against the back of her neck. Then it was gone, leaving only 4 assassins and a girl who had just traded her future to a god of death so her family might live. Her cell had always felt more like a borrowed room than a home, but that night it seemed to be shrinking, as if the walls were drawing in around her. Everything she owned fit into a coarse sack no bigger than a baker's flour bag. A spare robe, a dark wool cloak, a strip of oiled leather to keep the damp from her boots, a flint, a whetstone. The rest belonged to the house. Even the dagger she slid into her boot, a narrow blade with an unremarkable hilt, had been given to her, honed in silence in the temple's forges. Arya sat for a time on the edge of the hard pallet, listening to the breathing of the house. It did breathe, in its way, with settling pipes and channels whispering water, rats scurrying behind the stone. She had grown used to it, the same way she had grown used to the particular cold of Braavos' fog, the cry of gulls under low sky, the salt tang of the lagoon. These things would linger in her bones. She wondered what Winterfell smelled like now. Did the gods would still drip with snowmelt? Did the ravens still croak their ugly songs at dawn? A soft tap sounded at the door. Arya rose and opened it. The kindly man stood there, his face the worn, kind one she had first known, though she understood now it was no more his own than any other. He carried a small bundle wrapped in black cloth. For you, he said. Inside lay a strip of leather bearing a row of tiny metal hooks, each holding a different ring. One was simple iron, plain and narrow. Another was silver chased with a pattern of waves. A third bore an oval of dark glass. There were others, some dull, some bright. They were unremarkable at first glance. Arya knew better. Faces? She asked, brushing a fingertip along a ring. Seeds, the kindly man said. Faces must be tended, like vines. These will not change you by themselves. They are reminders, tools to help your mind slip into the right shadows. His gaze rested on her. You have learned to be no one. Now you must remember how to be someone, without forgetting the god's claim. Arya slid the leather into her sack, then hesitated. Will I come back? She asked. The question had nagged in her stomach since she had knelt by the pool. She had signed a bargain with a god older than the Royne, older than Valyria's first flame. He might not care where she died, so long as she did. The kindly man did not smile, yet something about his face softened. We walk many roads, he said. Some circle back to where they began. Others do not. If you return, the house will be here. The doors of the many-faced god are never truly shut. And if I don't, then you will have gone to him by another path. He touched her shoulder, just once. Do not mistake his nature, child. He is not cruel. He is simply the end. He comes for all, even for those who serve him. Arya thought of the pool, of the vision of Robb's blood spilling on the rushes. He doesn't have to come for my brothers yet, she said. Or my mother. Or... She caught herself before she said Sansa's name. She wasn't sure if Sansa was alive. Saying the name aloud felt like tempting the god. The kindly man's hand fell away. "That is why you go," he said. She slung the sack over her shoulder. The familiar weight settled against her hip. For a heartbeat she wanted Needle there too, the thin sword that had taught her what it meant to be quick and small and deadly. But Needle was lost. In its place she had knives, poisons, borrowed faces, and herself sharpened. At the threshold she paused. "Do I say goodbye?" she asked. "There is no need," the kindly man replied. "We are not a family." His words should have stung. They did, a little, but they were also a kind of permission. Arya inclined her head, then stepped past him into the corridor. The torches burned low. The house of black and white watched her go with 1,000 empty eyes. Braavos at dawn belonged to the men who moved ships and the women who sold fish, not to lords or bravos with feathered caps. The richer sort were still asleep behind their shuttered windows. Fog wrapped the city in damp gray, muffling footsteps and swallowing the tops of the towers. Somewhere out in the lagoon, a bell was tolling, slow and solemn. Arya pulled her cloak tighter as she followed the 3 faceless men down a narrow street that sloped toward the water. They wore travel-stained cloaks now instead of temple robes, hoods pushed forward to hide their features. The masks were gone, but they did not need them. They had faces enough. Each of them had taken on a different guise for the journey. A broad-shouldered Braavosi with a scar along his jaw and a short beard, a dark-haired woman with the rough hands of a sailor, a stooped, gray man whose eyes peered out from beneath a moth-eaten hood. Arya, by contrast, had been given the face of Cat of the Canals again. Though a little older, a little harder. Her cheeks were less round. Her hair was pulled back in a tight braid. She walked like a dock girl who knew how to dodge grabbing hands and how to bite when dodging failed. "Do not stare at the Titan," the scarred man murmured as they turned onto a wider quay. His Braavosi accent was thicker now, his voice pitched lower. Tourists crane their necks. "We are not tourists." "I've lived here," Arya said. "I've seen him 100 times." "You've never left him behind," the woman answered. She spoke in the common tongue of Westeros, her words smooth, unremarkable. "That is different." Arya almost looked up anyway. The Titan's massive shape loomed through the fog, legs straddling the mouth of the harbor, waves crashing around his feet. His torches were banked now, smoke trailing from the braziers. She had always liked him, in a way. He was a promise carved in stone. Braavos stands. "We will not be taken." Her father had stood like that once in her mind. They reached the edge of the quay where a narrow plank led to a ship moored close in. She was no great cog or war galley, just a lean, weathered trader with 2 masts and a hull stained by hard years. A brisk, sharp-faced captain stood at the top of the gangplank, arms folded, watching as sacks and crates were carried aboard. "You're late," he barked as they approached. The stooped gray man straightened a little, revealing himself as less frail than he had seemed. "The house keeps its own time, Captain Morito," he said. "Your coin did not say the tide would refuse to wait." The captain's lips thinned. "My coin said I'd be carrying quiet passengers, not a troop." "Who's the girl?" "My niece," the woman said smoothly. "She can swab a deck and keep her mouth shut. If she can't, I'll see she learns before we make the Narrow Sea." Morito eyed Arya, taking in the cloak, the boots, the way she stood with her weight on the balls of her feet. "You're small," he said. "I'm quick," Arya shot back. The scarred man's hand brushed her elbow in warning, but the captain only snorted. "Quick bleeds as much as slow if she goes overboard," he said. "Stay out of the way of my men, girl. We sail with the tide, and the tide doesn't care whose fingers it crushes." Arya bit down on the retort that came to her tongue. She followed the others up onto the deck. The ship smelled of tar and fish and old rope. Gulls wheeled overhead, crying. Braavos spread behind them in a low, sprawling tangle of bridges and towers. Smoke columns smudged the sky where cook fires burned. Jon is north of all this, she thought, and Robb is somewhere in the middle, between burning cities and treacherous rivers. The world felt enormous and small all at once. "Remember," the gray man murmured as they moved toward the forecastle. On this ship, I am Uncle Torren. That is your Aunt Lisa. The scarred one is Corren, a hired sword. You are Arya, not Arya. Not yet. I remember. Arya had once ridden with Yoren and the Night's Watch recruits. Arya had slept under hedges and in barns. Arya had watched men die and had not screamed. And what are we? The woman, Aunt Lisa for now, asked. Passengers, Arya said. Nobody. No one worth noticing. The woman's eyes crinkled. Good, she said. Let us hope the god agrees for now. The ropes creaked, the sails bellied, and the ship eased away from the quay like an animal finally loosed from a tether. Water churned white along the hull. Arya gripped the rail and watched the city that had taught her to be small and quiet and deadly slip backward into the mist. Braavos blurred at the edges, its towers and domes dissolving into gray. The great bridge of the Sea Lords faded. The sound of the harbor bells grew distant, then faint. Only the Titan remained for a time, his legs rooted in the water, his massive torso rising above the fog. Arya imagined he was watching her as she had watched him, those stone eyes noting the little ship that slid between his ankles and out toward the wider world. Goodbye, she whispered under her breath, not to the city alone, to the girl she had been in it. Weasel and cat and blind beggar, cupbearer and corpse washer and student of lies. A gust of wind slapped her braid against her cheek. The sea beyond Braavos was a restless gray plain, streaked with whitecaps. Gulls followed for a while, screeching, then wheeled away when they realized there would be no easy fish. Corren, if that was his name today, came to stand beside her. He braced one hand on the rail, the other resting on the hilt of the short sword at his hip. Up close, his scar looked half real, half artful. It tugged his mouth into a perpetual half-smile that never reached his eyes. First time leaving the lagoon? He asked. Second, Arya said. I came here on a ship, remember? Before the house. Many come to Braavos, he said. Few leave with more than they brought. Fewer still leave alive. I learned, Arya said. Enough to go home. He made a non-committal sound. Home. He said the word as if it were foreign. Be careful you do not find it changed beyond your knowing. War has a way of reshaping shores. Arya thought of the pool again. Of Robb's crown, tilted as he lurched under the arrow's blow. That's why I'm going, she said. To change what war wants to do to my home. Corren studied her profile for a moment. The god heard her, you know, he said. When she swore by the pool. I know. Some of us serve for coin, he went on. Some for penance. Others because we have nothing else. You serve for a promise. Those burn brightest. They are hardest to keep. Arya did not look at him. Her eyes were fixed on the line where sea met sky. Are you trying to scare me? She asked. If you were a little older, perhaps, Corren said, and she could not tell whether he was amused. But you are too young to imagine death properly. You still think of it as an enemy you can stab. I've seen people die, Arya said sharply. I've killed. I know what it looks like. You know what it looks like from the outside, he said. That is different. She turned to glare at him. What about you? She asked. What did you swear? Why do you serve? For coin? For penance? He looked back toward the mist, now thinning as they gained the open sea. Once, he said, I swore to keep a man alive. I failed. The god took him and left me alone. I learned then that if I could not keep life, I might as well learn to take it properly. It was a kind of courtesy. That doesn't make sense, Arya said. It doesn't have to, he replied. It only has to be true. Remember this little wolf. Every promise to the god is kept one way or another. The only question is whether you accept the moment when he comes for his due. Arya thought of her own words in the temple, of her vow to pay when asked. She imagined a future, vague and far off, where she and Robb and Jon stood side by side, the North safe, her list satisfied. In that vision, she could picture herself stepping forward when the god called, nodding once, unafraid. I'll be ready, she said. Corren said nothing. He stayed beside her until the last glimpse of the Titan vanished into fog and the ship sailed on into the long, churning gray. The first storm struck 3 days out, a black wall that rose from the western horizon and swallowed the sunset. The crew muttered curses in a half-dozen tongues as the wind freshened, snapping at the sails. Captain Morito stalked the deck bellowing orders, his voice cutting through the building roar. By the time the rain came, the world had narrowed to gray and white and the dark, rising waves. The ship climbed each swell with a groan and crashed down again, boards shuddering. Water lashed the deck, soaking Arya through even beneath the tarpaulin stretched over a cluster of casks. Her fingers ached from clinging to the rope that tethered her to a ringbolt. She had grown up with northern storms, the kind that layered snow on snow until the world disappeared in white. This was different. This was water trying to tear you away, trying to throw you into the black between waves where no one would know you'd gone. Aunt Lisa crouched beside her, one hand braced, the other checking the knot on Arya's rope. Her hair, dark and tightly braided, clung to her cheeks. Rain streamed off her cloak. "Breathe with the ship," Lisa shouted over the wind. "Don't fight her. Feel her rise, fall, rise. As long as she moves, she's alive, and you are too." "I'm not afraid," Arya yelled back, though her stomach flipped every time the hull dropped out from under her. "I just hate being thrown around like a sack." "That feeling never goes away," Lisa said. "You learn to ride it. Close your eyes if you must. Pretend you're on the back of a galloping horse." Arya squeezed her eyes shut for a moment and imagined herself on horseback, racing across the green fields outside Winterfell, Nymeria loping somewhere just out of sight. The memory steadied her more than the rope did. When she opened her eyes again, the lightning cracked overhead, turning the sea into a sheet of boiling silver. For an instant she could see every wave, every rope, every man on deck etched in stark lines. Corren was up by the foremast, helping haul down a strip of sail to keep it from tearing. The gray man, Torren, had vanished below earlier to help pump out any water that made it past the hull. Morito moved like someone who knew how to argue with storms and win, his feet never slipping as he crossed from one side to the other. Arya bared her teeth at the sky. "Is this all you've got?" She muttered under her breath. The wind howled in reply. Another wave crashed over the bow, drenching her anew. She huddled deeper under the tarpaulin, tasting salt and tar and fear that was not quite her own. She thought of the Hall of Faces, of the silence there, of the way the kind of death she had learned in Braavos was quiet, precise, intentional. This death was noisy, indiscriminate. The storm did not care who she was or what promises she had made. "Robb's not dying at a feast just so I can drown here," she told herself fiercely. "Jon's not freezing his arse off on some wall so I can sink before I see him." The ship rose again, shuddered, then steadied. Somewhere above, Morito shouted, "Hold fast! She's turning. Let her nose bite the waves." Hours later, the storm relented as abruptly as it had come. The rain thinned and ceased. The clouds pulled apart, revealing a ragged smear of stars. The sea still heaved, but less violently. Men slumped where they stood. One of the younger sailors leaned over the rail and retched noisily. Arya stepped out from under the tarpaulin, her limbs stiff. Her rope had rubbed the skin of her wrists raw. Lisa untied it with quick fingers. "You kept your feet," the woman said. "Some don't their first big blow." "I've had worse," Arya said automatically, though she knew it wasn't true. She had faced worse fear, perhaps, gold cloaks and hounds and men with whips, but not this kind of helpless movement. "The Narrow Sea will give you more chances to prove it," Lisa replied. "Storms always do." Arya glanced up at the sails, billowing now more gently. Beyond them, a slice of clear night sky glimmered. Somewhere far ahead, Westeros waited. A jagged smear of coastline, a wall of ice, a hall where crossbows lay hidden. She squared her shoulders. "Let it," she murmured. "I'm not turning back." Below decks, the storm's fury was muted to a constant creaking and the occasional thud as waves hit the hull. A lantern swayed from a hook overhead, its light sliding back and forth over the cramped space. Barrels and casks were lashed in place with ropes. Hammocks hung empty where sailors had yet to turn in. On a crate that served as a table, someone had spread a rough map of Westeros. The parchment was creased and stained, but Arya recognized enough to make her chest tighten. The jutting finger of Dorne, the bulging green of the Reach, the jagged western coast. The north loomed larger than the rest, dominating the top half like a wolf's head. Corren's finger traced from Braavos' position along the arrow of their route. "We'll make landfall north of the Vale," he said. "The wars burned its way through King's Landing and the Riverlands. Too many patrols, too many broken men, too many eyes. The captain prefers trade along quieter shores." "Quiet doesn't sound bad," Arya said. "Quiet means fewer enemies. Quiet also means fewer ships," Lisa pointed out, "and fewer roads. The fastest path is not always the safest. The safest is rarely the fastest. We must balance both. Time matters, but so does arriving with our skin intact." "We need to reach Jon Snow first," Torrhen added from his hammock. His voice drifted from the shadows, dry as ever. "The wall is less likely to be crawling with Frey spies." Arya's gaze jumped to the top of the map, where a long wall of ink marked the northernmost border. "He's there," she said, pressing her finger to it. "At Castle Black. He wrote to me once when he first went. He said the wall is so high it makes men look like ants." Corren moved her finger slightly east. "News from the ports says otherwise," he said. "The wildlings have moved. A king beyond the wall gathers them, and Jon Snow has ridden out with the Watch to learn his strength. He may not be at Castle Black when we arrive." Arya stared at him. "You're sure?" "As sure as we can be with ship's gossip and hearsay," Lisa said. "But too many stories match. Black brothers seen riding with wildlings, a bastard of Winterfell in furs among them. The wall is no longer merely watching. It is moving." Arya's thoughts twisted. Jon among the wildlings? Fighting them? Spying on them? She tried to imagine him standing beside one of Mance Rayder's raiders, gray eyes giving nothing away. If anyone could be hidden in plain sight, it was Jon. He had always been quiet, half there even when he was right beside you. "We'll find him then," she said, "wherever he is. If he's with the wildlings, we'll go there." "That is not a simple thing," Torrhen said. "The wildlings are not merchants you can stroll up to. They do not like crows, or southerners, or Braavosi." "I'm not a Braavosi," Arya snapped. "You are whatever face we need you to be," he countered. "Remember that. To the wildlings, you might be a frightened girl running from the war. To the Night's Watch, you might be the same girl seeking a brother. To your brother, you might need to be both Arya Stark and something more." "More?" Arya frowned. "Someone who can ask him to betray oaths," Torrhen said. "We may need him to leave the Watch, or bend its rules. Black brothers do not do that lightly. Not the good ones. Jon Snow has that look about him." Arya bristled. "I'm not going to make Jon betray anything. He's my brother. He'll help because it's right." "You're asking him to interfere in a southern war," Lisa said gently. "To move men and ravens and provisions. To risk the wrath of lords and kings. Right has very little to do with it in their eyes." Arya traced the Riverlands with one fingertip, following the line of the trident where it forked and rejoined. There, near the crossing, was the mark for the twins. Two small towers straddling a drawn river. "We don't need their eyes," she said. "We can be invisible. You taught me how." "We taught you how to vanish from small folk and city watch," Corren replied. "Lords have maesters, ravens, eyes at every crossroads. But you are not wrong. Our strength lies in shadows. Walder Frey will not die to swords in his hall. He will die to knives in corners. Roose Bolton, too, will not be slain in fair combat. He is too careful for that." Arya's mind leapt ahead, imagining it. Frey choking on his own blood, Bolton's expression finally cracking as a blade found his heart. "Let me do it," she said, the words spilling out before she could stop them. Let me kill them. Perhaps, Torrhen said. Perhaps you will. But first we must reach your brother. He is the keystone. Without Jon Snow, you will be a lone girl pushing against a flood. With him, you will have a wall at your back. A wall made of ice, Lysa added. And vows. We must see how much those can bend before they break. Arya looked again at the map. The distance between the Narrow Sea's coast and the wall seemed small on parchment, a thumb's length. In her mind, it stretched like a lifetime. Then we go faster, she said quietly. We find Jon before the twins see my brother ride under their gate. The air grew colder as they sailed west and north. The soft, damp chill of Braavos hardened into something sharper, cleaner. The smell of rot and city smoke was replaced by resin and stone and the faint iron tang of distant snow. Arya's breath fogged in front of her as she leaned on the rail, watching the land slide by. Jagged cliffs, dark pines marching up hillsides. Occasional inlets were squat. Weather-beaten fishing villages clung to the shore. Is that the Vale? She asked Corren one morning, squinting at the mountains that reared up beyond a narrow bay. Their peaks were only dim shapes behind a veil of cloud, but something about their sheer rise made her think of stories of the Eyrie. Too far north already for the Eyrie, he said. But the fingers of land here belong to lords who owe fealty to the Arryns still. We will not be putting in. The captain doesn't like their dues. Arya could not blame him. She did not much like what she remembered of Southern Lords' dues, either. Robb had had to fight for every crossing, every bushel. Men were always happy to swear loyalty until doing so cost them. A pair of ravens wheeled high overhead, their black shapes stark against the pale sky. Arya's eyes followed them until her neck ached. Do you miss your wolf? Lysa asked quietly, coming to stand on Arya's other side. Nymeria, Arya swallowed. The name tasted bittersweet. I dream of her sometimes. In Braavos, Lysa's tone carried mild surprise. In lots of places, Arya said. Forests, rivers, snowfields. I think she's still alive. I can't always tell if I'm her or me. Maybe that's stupid. Stupidity and magic often look alike, Lysa said dryly. Don't discount one because it feels like the other. There are stories, even in Braavos, of the blood of the first men, of skin changers. Arya tensed. She had never spoken that part aloud to anyone in the house. She had learned early that some secrets were better kept. You don't need to fear our judgment, Lysa went on, as if reading her thoughts. The god wears many faces. Why should he begrudge you a wolf's? But be careful. Power that is not his may attract other eyes. Other eyes? There are red priests who stalk visions in flame, Corren said, leaning in. Sorcerers who hear whispers from shadows. Things beyond the wall that see through owl and crow. If you walk too boldly in the skin of another creature, something might look back at you. Arya thought of the vision in the pool, of the way it had stared back when she tried to push into it. Good, she said. Let it. I'm tired of always being the one who's seen first. Lysa's mouth quirked. You are very Stark, she commented. Even with all our training. Arya snorted. I thought you wanted me to remember my name. We do, Corren said. Your name is a blade. We are simply sharpening it. By late afternoon, a line appeared on the horizon ahead. Not land, but something else. At first Arya thought it was a low cloud, but as the sun shifted she saw it for what it was. A pale band stretching from one edge of the world to the other. The wall, she breathed. Even at this distance it was impossible to mistake. It reared impossibly high, a man-made cliff of ice that caught the light and turned it into ghostly fire. Her father's stories had not done it justice. It was beautiful and terrible, a frozen promise hammered into the bones of the earth. I, Corren said, will not come much closer by sea. The captain will put in at Eastwatch or near enough for a boat to carry us ashore. From there, we find your brother. Arya's heart beat faster. Jon was somewhere near that line of ice, maybe on top of it, maybe riding miles beyond. He did not know she was coming. He did not know that the Hall of Faces had shown her a hall of blood, and that she was crossing half the world to stop it. "Hold on," she whispered, though whether to Jon or to Robb she could not say. "Just a little longer." The rowboat scraped against shingle, grinding pebbles. The air on the northern shore slapped Arya's face like a cold hand. She breathed in deeply, lungs burning with the sharpness. This was not Braavos' damp chill, nor the salt-soft breezes of the southern coasts. This was a wind that had swept down from ice fields and over dead forests, carrying whispers. Torren jumped out first, boots splashing in the frigid water. He steadied the boat while Lysa followed, then offered a hand to Arya. She ignored it and vaulted over the side. Her feet plunged into water up to her ankles. It stabbed like knives. She hissed through her teeth but did not falter, pushing through to the shore where wet stones shifted under her weight. Behind them, the ship that had carried them from Braavos was already turning its prow back toward deeper water. Captain Morito had refused to come too close to Eastwatch's piers. "The Watch's dues are worse than the Vale's," he'd grumbled. "And they pay in glowers instead of coin." He'd agreed to lower a boat and nothing more. Corren came last, a bundle slung over his shoulder. The four of them stood together on the narrow strip of beach, the long shadow of the wall falling almost to their feet. Up close, it was even more impossible. The ice was not pure white but shot through with veins of blue and gray, layers upon layers pressed together over centuries. The top was lost in a pale haze. "Impressive," Lysa conceded. "Unnatural," Torren said. "Necessary," Corren murmured. "Men do strange things when they are afraid." A horn sounded in the distance. 2 deep notes, echoing off ice and stone. Arya shaded her eyes, peering toward the squat shapes of Eastwatch's wooden towers. Figures moved along the ramparts, small as crows at this distance. Black cloaks flapped against the snow-dusted stone. "Remember who you are," Torren said quietly. "You are Aery, niece to Torren, a poor trader seeking your lost kin. Your brother rode north with the Watch. You have come in hopes of news. You have no coin, only a stubborn tongue." "I don't need to pretend to have that," Arya muttered. "Arya Stark will come later," he said, "when we find someone worth trusting with that name." They trudged up the narrow path leading from the beach toward the gate. The ground was hard as iron under a thin fretwork of snow. The rocks rhymed with frost. Arya's breath steamed. Her toes were already numb inside her boots. As they approached, the gate's smaller postern creaked open and a man emerged, wrapped in black furs. His beard was more gray than dark. His eyes were sharp and tired. He carried no visible weapon, but Arya had learned that meant little. "Eastwatch by the sea," he called down. "You have business with the Night's Watch?" Torren bowed slightly. "We seek passage if it can be given," he said in halting Westerosi, his Braavosi accent thicker than usual. "And news. My niece's brother took the Black some years past. We were told a raven might know where he rides." The man's gaze flicked over them, lingering on Arya's small form. "Ravens carry letters, not kin," he said. "And the Watch has no room for stray mouths. Winter's coming on faster than we like. We've wildlings massing beyond the wall and less food than men to eat it." "We can work," Arya said, before Torren could reply. "I can scrub and fetch and carry. My uncles," she gestured to the others. "They can mend and fight. We're not beggars." The man's mouth tightened, but not unkindly. "You're all beggars at the end of the world," he said. "But you're not the first to come here looking for a brother." "He is Jon Snow," Torren said, letting the name fall as if reluctantly. "A bastard of Winterfell. He wrote once from Castle Black. Then no more. We heard of wildlings and war. We feared." The man's eyes sharpened. "Jon Snow is not at Castle Black," he interrupted. "If that's who you mean. He rode with the Lord Commander beyond the wall. They've not yet returned." Arya's heart seemed to drop and then soar at once. Jon wasn't here. Jon was alive but elsewhere. "Where?" she demanded. "Where did he go?" "Castle Black," the older man said. "If he's still loyal to his vows." He'll turn his cloak back before Mance Rayder reaches the wall. If he's gone over to the wildlings, then the wall's the first thing he'll try to open for them. He held up a hand before Arya could protest. I know what I think of Jon Snow. I saw him here once, when he came to help man our garrison. He's as stark as they come. But men do strange things when you set them in the teeth of winter. If you want news, ride west. The Shadow Tower won't help you. Castle Black's where the crows flock. We've no horses, Corren said. Just our feet. You'll have snowshoes and cloaks from our stores, if Bowen Marsh doesn't bleat too loud about it. Mallister pushed himself up, joints creaking. You'll sleep here tonight. At first light, we'll send you with a supply wagon heading for Castle Black. It's more than we should spare. But if he is alive, Lord Snow deserves to know someone's come looking. Arya said nothing. Her hand tightened around the spoon until her knuckles whitened. She imagined Jon's face. The half-smile, the dark eyes. Beyond the wall, perhaps with enemies who called themselves friends. South of the wall, a brother who thought himself safe and walked toward a hall full of hidden arrows. The stew tasted suddenly of iron. She forced herself to swallow. The yard smelled of old smoke, wet wool, and the lingering tang of salt that even this far north could not quite be driven away. Men in black moved about their business, hunched into their cloaks as if the wind had teeth. Racks of spears leaned against the palisade. A few ravens watched from the rafters, feathers puffed. The officer who had met them at the gate had a face that looked carved instead of grown, all plains and hollows. His beard was streaked with iron, his nose bent from some forgotten break. He led them into a low hall whose roof groaned under the weight of snow. Inside, the air was warmer, thick with the smell of stew and damp leather. A fire crackled in a stone hearth, throwing flickering light over a long table. "Sit," he barked, and a younger brother hurried to ladle bowls of thick brown stew. "You'll eat and talk or talk and eat. Makes no difference so long as you're quick." Arya wrapped her hands around the bowl, letting the heat seep into her fingers. She ate greedily, ignoring how Corren and Lysa and Corren watched the officer instead of their food. The meat was stringy, the broth too thin, but it was hot, and it was not temple gruel. "You said Jon Snow went beyond the wall," Corren said after a few spoonfuls, his voice careful. "With your Lord Commander." "Aye," the officer replied. "Lord Commander Jeor Mormont took a great ranging north, 200-odd men. Jon Snow among them. They went to the Fist of the First Men, last we heard." "Last you heard?" Arya seized the words. "What happened?" He gave her a cool look. "And you are Arya," she said quickly. His sister's girl. Like my uncle said." Something in the way she said sister's girl, the little tightness that crept in, made the man's gaze soften by a hair. "I'm Denys Mallister," he said. "Eastwatch's commander, until the gods send someone better. Last Raven we had spoke of wildlings in numbers, big as any host in the south. Then came another, from somewhere nearer Craster's keep." His jaw clenched. "Mutiny. Lord Commander Mormont killed. A handful of brothers fled south. Jon Snow wasn't among those named." Arya's stomach clenched around the stew. "So he's dead?" she asked, the words tasting like ash. "If we knew that, we'd carve his name in stone." Mallister shook his head. "We've heard other tales. A Stark bastard riding with wildlings around the Frostfangs. Some say he slew Corren half-hand to win their trust. Others say he beds a spearwife and eats the flesh of crows. Men's tongues add filth to any story. I don't know the truth. I know this, the wildlings are moving south. My ravens can barely keep ahead of their scouts." Corren leaned forward, expression intent. "If Jon Snow rides with them," he said, "he may be there under orders. To watch, to learn." Mallister grunted. "If half my life is if these days." His gaze slid back to Arya. "If you truly are kin, girl, then hear this. Your brother is either cleverer than the rest of us or dead. Either way, you won't find him at Eastwatch." "Where then?" Arya demanded. "Where would he go?" "Castle Black. the older man said. If he's still loyal to his vows, he'll turn his cloak back before Mance Rayder reaches the wall. If he's gone over to the wildlings, then the wall's the first thing he'll try to open for them. He held up a hand before Arya could protest. I know what I think of Jon Snow. I saw him here once, when he came to help man our garrison. He's as stark as they come. But men do strange things when you set them in the teeth of winter. If you want news, ride west. The Shadow Tower won't help you. Castle Black's where the crows flock. We've no horses, Torrhen said. Just our feet. You'll have snowshoes and cloaks from our stores, if Bowen Marsh doesn't bleat too loud about it. Mallister pushed himself up, joints creaking. You'll sleep here tonight. At first light, we'll send you with a supply wagon heading for Castle Black. It's more than we should spare, but if he is alive, Lord Snow deserves to know someone's come looking. Arya said nothing. Her hand tightened around the spoon until her knuckles whitened. She imagined Jon's face, the half-smile, the dark eyes. Beyond the wall, perhaps with enemies who called themselves friends. South of the wall, a brother who thought himself safe and walked toward a hall full of hidden arrows. The stew tasted suddenly of iron. She forced herself to swallow. The way from Eastwatch to Castle Black was not long as southern men counted miles, but each one seemed to stretch. The supply wagon crawled along the base of the wall like a beetle beside a frozen cliff. The ice rose to their left all the while, veined with trapped air and ancient snow, sometimes weeping slow tears where meltwater trickled. To the right, the land rolled away in a series of low, wind-carved hills, patched with brown grass and stubborn shrubs. They traveled with a half-dozen black brothers, the wagon piled with sacks of grain that tasted more of sawdust than wheat and barrels of salt pork that had sweated through their hoops. Arya walked more often than she rode, feet numbing and then burning and then numbing again. Torrhen, Lisa, and Corren kept pace with deceptive ease, their breaths never seeming to labor, footprints almost dainty in the packed snow. On the third day, the towers of Castle Black hove into view, squat and ugly and dearer to the world than any shining southern castle. Smoke climbed straight up from chimneys in the still, cold air. A few great ravens wheeled overhead, their croaks drifting down. Beneath the wall, the castle seemed even more like a cluster of forgotten toys. Not much to look at, one of the brothers grunted when he caught Arya staring. He was young, with a nose gone red from cold and a voice that held a trace of the reach. But she keeps the wind off. I like it, Arya said. She did. There was no pretense to Castle Black, no banners fluttering, no gilded towers. It was a place built for work. Inside the gates, the yard was a churn of slush and men. A pair of boys sparred clumsily with wooden swords. An older man with a long, mournful face yelled at them to keep their guards up. Off to one side, a blacksmith hammered at a bent shield, sparks flying. A great cage dangled from a winch near the wall, ropes creaking as it descended. Fresh meat for the cold, someone called as the supply wagon rolled to a halt. We're looking for Jon Snow, Arya said, before Torrhen could step in. Her voice carried further than she meant it to. Several heads turned. He's my brother. A bastard, someone snickered. The man with the mournful face shot a glare toward the sound. You'll keep your japes inside your teeth, Gren, he said. To Arya he added, Jon Snow's not here. Went out with the Lord Commander, like as not. We heard he went over to the wildlings, another voice put in. This one belonged to a thin man with a drooping mouth. Some say he took a spear wife to bed and started calling himself Free. Dolorous Ed. I swear you spread gloom like other men spread butter, the first man complained. Then he sighed. Truth is, girl, we don't know. Samwell Tarly and a few others came staggering back from Craster's with tales of mutiny and dead men walking. The Lord Commander died up there. Jon didn't come back with them. Is Samwell here? Torrhen asked mildly. Aye, with Maester Aemon. The man gestured toward the looming foot of the wall, where the cage had just reached ground again. He'll be with the old man in his solar more often than not, reading letters from the south and crying over them, if there's any sense left in him. Arya watched as men loaded the last of the grain into a lift. Beyond it, the wall's face climbed, pitted and scarred. "We want to see the top," she said suddenly. The mournful man blinked. "The top? I came all this way," she insisted. "I want to see what he sees, Jon, when he looks north." She walked half the world to hear of him, Corren reminded the man softly. "Let her look once." The brother hesitated, then shrugged, as if the decision weighed less than the bundle of firewood on his shoulder. "Fine. Ghosts need something to do." He raised his voice. "Ho there, 2 more for the cage. Don't you piss yourselves on the way up." The cage swayed as it rose, chains rattling. The wind snapped at Arya's cloak, knifed through her clothes, clawed at her ears. The yard shrank below, men turning into mites. Her stomach lurched. She bared her teeth at the sensation, refusing to show any fear. When the cage bumped against the top of the wall, hands pulled them out, black-gloved, rough. Arya stepped onto a surface that might as well have been a mountaintop. The wall's crest stretched away in both directions, a broad lane of packed ice and crusted snow, flanked by low crenels. The air up here was even colder, as if the sky itself were a deep breath drawn and held. She walked to the northern edge. The forest rolled away below, a sea of bare branches and dark pines, valleys lost in shadow. It went on and on and on until the world blurred at the edges. Here and there she could see thin threads of smoke or a flicker of movement where some distant herd moved. "Beyond that, nothing," said a voice at her side. She turned. The man who had spoken was old and frail, bundled in black furs, his face a map of creases. His eyes were white and filmed, though they pointed more or less in her direction. A chain of Maester's links hung around his neck, dull in the cold light. "You're Maester Aemon," Arya said. She had heard the name in Winterfell's hall, half imagined him as a story, like the wall itself. "Yes." His blind eyes seemed to look through her. "And you, child, are far from wherever you once called home." "Winterfell," she said before she could stop herself. His expression shifted, almost imperceptibly. "Ah," he murmured. "I thought I heard the north in your voice, in the way you stand. Stark, perhaps? No, forgive an old man. I see too much of the past in every shadow." Arya's heart thudded. "My brother," she said. "Jon Snow. I came for him. And yet he is not here to meet you," Aemon said gently. "Come. The wind will strip the flesh from your bones if we stand here too long. We can talk where it is warmer, and perhaps between us we can decide whether that young man lives or dies." Maester Aemon's solar was small and spare, but it felt more solid than any room in Braavos. The walls were thick stone. A single narrow window admitted a slice of gray light. Ravens muttered on perches along one wall, black eyes bright. The table between them groaned under the weight of scrolls and seals, some broken, some still tied. Samwell Tarly stood near the door like a man who had forgotten how to sit. He clutched an armful of letters against his chest, fingers worrying at the edges of the parchments. His black cloak looked too big on him, as if he had borrowed it from a larger man and never quite grown into it. "You're really from Winterfell?" he asked Arya, round eyes wide. "Truly? I mean, it's not that I don't believe you. It's just—" "Let the girl speak, Samwell," Aemon chided mildly. Arya told them enough of the truth to make the lies tastier. That she had lost her father in King's Landing, that war had scattered what was left of her family, that she had come across the Narrow Sea with uncles who traded in whatever could be slipped past tariffs and patrols. She did not speak of Braavos' temple or of faces worn like cloaks. She did not speak of visions in black pools. "And you heard of Jon Snow's ranging," Aemon said when she had finished, "and followed his shadow north." "I heard nothing," Arya said bleakly. "No letters, no words. Only that Winterfell burned and my brother Robb wears a crown and marches south. I came because I saw—" She faltered. The pool's image rose again. Arrows, music, Robb's body jerked like a puppet. Because I needed to know at least one brother would still be breathing.
Sam swallowed audibly.
Lord Commander Mormont trusted Jon, he burst out. Everyone knows that. Even when others doubted him, the old bear didn't. And Jon saved his life more than once. He wouldn't turn. Yet you sent ravens saying he rode with Mance Rayder's host. Torrhen put in from where he sat near the hearth, voice mild. That he slew a brother to win his place.
Sam flushed.
I wrote what I was told to write, he said. Corren half-hand ordered Jon to do things, to convince the wildlings he'd turned. Corren thought. He thought Jon could learn more from inside their ranks than swinging a sword at them and dying on some pass. And the mutiny? Lisa asked quietly. At this Craster's keep. Sam's face closed. Men were hungry, he said. Cold. Afraid. Craster was not a good man, but Lord Commander Mormont was. It doesn't matter. It's done. His gaze dropped to the letters in his hands. When the brothers who ran came back, Bowen Marsh and the rest, they panicked. We lost the fist. Lost so many ravens. We don't know what's happening beyond the wall now. Not truly. Just bits of rumor from wildling campfires and frightened tongues. Aemon's fingers moved among the seals on the table, touching them as if he could read them that way. We should not pretend to know more than we do, he said. But I am not blind to patterns, even if I am blind to faces. The wildlings mass. Others stir. Night gathers, as our vows say. And in the south. His hand brushed a scroll marked with a direwolf's head broken by a smear of red wax. King Robb Stark breaks a marriage pact with House Frey to wed for love. Lord Walder is not a forgiving man. Arya's heart thudded. You know that? She whispered. The ravens do not always fly, Aemon said. But sometimes they arrive despite crows and storms and enemies. Edmure Tully seeks to mend the rift by wedding one of Walder's daughters in his cousin's place. Your brother's bannermen do not like it, but they like a crossing of the Green Fork less. Your king rides toward the twins even now. He turned his clouded eyes toward her, and for a moment Arya felt pinned as surely as if he could see through to the bone. Your fear, child. It comes from more than letters. Does it not? She swallowed. I saw him die, she said. The words came out flat. Sam made a small sound. Lisa's hand twitched on her knee. Not in a dream. Not like you think. I saw the hall, the music, the arrows. I saw Walder Frey smile. I saw Roose Bolton's knife. Aemon was very still. The only sound was the rustle of raven feathers and the distant howling of the wind against the wall. There are more ways to know than eyes and ears, the old maester said at last. Dragon dreams, some called them, in the days when my house still had dragons. Prophecy if one is careless. Curses if one is afraid. We will not name what you saw. Names give power. But I will not discard it either. Can we stop it? Arya demanded. If we reach Robb in time. If Jon helps. Torrhen said softly. That is why we came, Maester. Not just for news. We need the Wall's cooperation. The Night's Watch takes no part in the wars of the realm, Sam protested. And yet the wars of the realm have taken part in the Night's Watch, Torrhen replied. Stannis Baratheon marches north, does he not? His ravens speak of saving the realm from cold and darkness. The old vows bend when the wind blows hard enough. We are asking you to bend nothing. Only to let us speak with Jon Snow when we find him. Let us use your ravens, your maps, your knowledge. Aemon's expression turned inward, as if he were weighing stones in his mind. You believe Jon Snow will matter in this? He asked Arya. He always matters, she said, fiercer than she meant to. He sees things other men don't. He tries to do what's right even when it hurts. Robb will listen to him, and men who won't listen to Robb might listen to Jon. Not if they think he's broken his vows, Sam murmured. They'll say any word he sends is tainted. Arya thought of the pool again, of the first arrow striking home. Then we'll make sure they listen, she said. However, we have to. Aemon exhaled slowly. I am old, he said. The world has already turned past anything I might have stopped, but I can help you walk in the right direction. Samway. LL. Fetch the charts showing the Frostfangs and the haunted forest routes. If Jon Snow still breathes, he will be somewhere along the wildlings' southern push. He tilted his head toward Arya. And you, child, you should know that the path you are choosing leads into a deeper night than even this wall knows. Once you step on it, you cannot turn aside easily. Arya met his blind gaze. I already stepped, she said. In Braavos. They chose the old tunnel at the Nightfort instead of the main gate at Castle Black. Bowen Marsh had argued until his face turned blotchy, but Aemon's quiet insistence and Sam's unexpected stubbornness had worn him down. The Nightfort was half abandoned, its stories older and darker than the current age liked to remember. Fewer eyes watched its ruin. Fewer tongues would wag about strangers slipping north. Snow squeaked underfoot as they crossed the Nightfort's yard. The keep loomed black and broken around them, its stones sagging. Arya had heard stories of this place at Winterfell, spoken in the half-whisper adults used when they hoped children were not listening. Of mad kings and long nights, of secret passages where the dead still walked. Being here felt like stepping into one of those tales and finding it colder than expected. The gate, then, Corren asked, his breath a white plume. Yes, Sam said, hugging himself. He had come with them, despite Bowen's displeasure. Arya had been surprised until she realized leaving him behind would have been crueler. He carried too many secrets in his soft chest. There's still a working winch. The tunnels. It's not as bad as people say. That depends on what they say, Lisa remarked. The tunnel was a throat of ice and stone that swallowed their torchlight greedily. The air inside was utterly still, the only sound the crunch of their boots and the occasional soft drip of meltwater. The walls glistened, carved by long-ago hands and then half-melted, half-refrozen 100 times. Some say there's a thing that lives down here, Sam whispered as they walked. Oh well, a sort of shadow. It takes the shapes of what you fear most. Arya snorted. I've met what I fear most, she said. He wore a golden cloak and cut my father's head off.
Sam flinched.
I'm sorry, he muttered. I didn't mean. It wasn't you, she said. You're just fat and frightened. He blinked, then gave a weak, unexpected chuckle. Ser Alistair Thorne would agree with you. At the far end of the tunnel, the black iron of the old portcullis blocked their way. Rust had eaten at its bars, but it still looked solid enough. Sam hurried to the side where a winch waited, ropes stiff with disuse. Corren and Torren put their shoulders to the crank, muscles bunching under their cloaks. The iron groaned. You could stay, Sam said suddenly over the shriek of metal. You don't have to go out there. We could wait for Jon to come to us. Or send a raven. Aemon could send a raven. Tell him, no raven will find a man in a moving camp, Torren grunted. And Jon Snow may not have the time to come strolling back. Wildlings do not stop wars because a bird begs them to.
Sam swallowed.
Beyond the wall, it's... He stroked the hilt of the sword at his belt, as if to reassure himself it was still there. There are things there that don't die properly. Then we'll make sure they die improperly, Lisa said. Stand back. The portcullis jerked upward, inch by protesting inch, until there was just enough space for a man to duck under. Arya's heart thudded. This was it. The threshold between the known and the white wilderness her brother had walked into. Sam looked at her, eyes big. Find him, he blurted. Please, and tell him we're holding as best we can. I will, Arya said. She ducked under the gate first, snow brushing her hair as it scraped overhead. On the other side, the haunted forest loomed. Tree trunks like bars, branches clawing at the sky. The night pressed close, heavy and deep. Corren, Lisa, and Torren joined her. Behind them, the portcullis began to descend again, the gap shrinking until only a sliver of torchlight remained. Arya, Sam called softly as the light narrowed. She glanced back, saw his round face framed by ice and shadow. You called yourself airy before, and And other names, I think. But your eyes are Stark eyes. Don't forget that. Not even up here. She nodded once. Then the gate thunked shut, cutting off the light, and they were alone in the dark and the snow, under a sky pricked with cold stars. This way, Torrhen said, adjusting the pack on his shoulders. The last wildling scouts were sighted along this line of hills. If Jon Snow rides with them, he cannot be far. We have more than tracks to follow, Lysa added. Rumors carry far in a camp that size. And we have faces. Her hand brushed the leather strip inside her cloak, where her rings rested. We'll walk among them before long. Arya's fingers closed around the dagger in her boot. Somewhere ahead, Jon rode with an enemy host. Somewhere far south, Robb rode toward a different kind of enemy. Arya walked forward into the trees, the snow swallowing the sound of her steps. The forest north of the wall had its own silence. It was not the sleepy hush of a god's wood or the busy quiet of a city before dawn. It was a listening silence, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath, waiting to see who would break the stillness first. Snow fell in slow, dry flakes, dusting Arya's hood and eyelashes. Her boots sank ankle-deep. The cold seeped up through the leather, numbing her toes. Her breath rasped loud in her own ears, so she forced herself to breathe more slowly. The Faceless Men moved with eerie ease, their feet barely seeming to disturb the powder. They had traded their Braavosi cloaks for furs taken from some forgotten cache, a wildling's cast-offs, perhaps, or pieces bought from the Watch's stores. Either way, they looked the part. Corren with a scruffy beard and tangled hair, Lysa with her braids woven with bits of bone. Torrhen had gone ahead earlier, taking a face Arya had never seen before. A heavy-browed man with a scar across his scalp, his accent turned northern rough. He had slipped away into the trees with a spear over his shoulder and the easy swagger of someone who had always lived free. "I'll walk into their firelight," he'd said. "Wildlings respect boldness. I'll listen. You follow the smoke." They had followed smoke and rumor for 2 days. Once, they saw a column of wildlings in the distance. A snake of ragged people moving through the trees, some on foot, some on shaggy little horses. Children clung to their mothers, old men limped. Men with axes stalked along the flanks, watching for danger. Giants trudged at the rear, like moving hills. Arya had to clamp down on the urge to stare. Stories don't do them justice either, do they? Lysa murmured. No, Arya said. Her heart pounded. One host here, another far south. Both moving toward walls and gates and halls where songs were meant to be sung, not crossbow bolts loosed. They skirted the column, moving parallel but unseen. As night fell, the wildlings began to make camp. Fires winking into life one by one, the murmur of hundreds of voices rising. Arya could pick out snatches even at this distance. The harsh burr of the Vens, the flatter vowels of the free folk from nearer the wall, the high, thin cries of tired children. "There," Corren said quietly, nodding toward a cluster of taller torches near the center. "That will be Mance Rayder's circle, or near it." "How do you know?" Arya asked. "Kings always put themselves in the middle," he said. "Even the ones who pretend they don't." They crept closer, picking their way between trees. The snow muffled their footsteps. Twice, they froze as groups of scouts passed nearby. Hard-faced men and women with spears and bows, cloaks drawn tight. Once, a great shaggy dog lifted its head, ears pricking, and for an instant Arya felt something prickling at the back of her mind, a sense of distant kinship. She forced herself not to reach toward it. She did not know how far her wolf blood could stretch, but she had no wish to have some other power tugging at her hand just when she needed it steady. At the edge of the firelight, Lysa and Corren halted. "You stay here," Lysa said. "I'm not waiting in the trees," Arya began. "You'll do as you're told," Corren interrupted. "For now, we need to know what stories they're telling of Jon Snow before you go charging in and throwing Stark at his head. If he's barely keeping his neck, the last thing he needs is a sister appearing out of nowhere." Arya's jaw clenched. "I've waited long enough, and you'll wait a little longer," Lysa's voice held no cruelty, only steel. Listen, learn. That's what they taught you in the house, isn't it? Arya pressed her lips together and sank back into the shadow of a tree. The bark was rough against her shoulder. From here, she could see the nearest rings of the wildling camp. Men and women sat around fires, passing skins of ale or sour wine, gnawing at what meat they had. Some sharpened blades, sparks flaring. Children huddled close to the flames, wrapped in whatever rags they could find. Lysa and Corren slipped forward, their bodies shifting as if reshaped by the firelight. By the time they reached the outermost circle, they moved like wildlings, shoulders loose, weapons in plain view but not raised, heads high. One of the men by the fire stood, hand on the axe at his belt. "Who are you?" he growled. "Hungry," Corren answered in a rough northern accent Arya had never heard from him before. "Cold, but who isn't? We heard Mance Rayder called all free folk south. We came. Or would you rather we went back to freeze and let the crows have us one by one?" The man snorted. "Mance doesn't like stragglers," he said, "but he likes bigger hosts. See, if you're lying, he'll flay your tongues at dawn." "Fair enough," Lysa said and crouched, accepting a slice of some tough, stringy meat. She did not look toward the trees where Arya watched, but Arya knew she was listening harder than she chewed. Time stretched. Arya's fingers went numb inside her gloves. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other, fighting the urge to pace. Snatches of conversation drifted toward her like wayward sparks. "Crow who killed a crow for Mance. Rides with Tormund Giantsbane now. They say he's lord of some big stone castle down south, this bastard. Knows the ways of the kneelers. If he opens the wall, we'll have their fat fields." Arya's heart hammered. Crow who killed a crow. That had to be Corren. She remembered the story of the half-hand from old tales. Had Jon really? More than once, she thought she heard his name spoken, almost lost in the buzz. Jon Snow, Lord Snow. The syllables slid through the night like arrows through branches. Each one made her want to move. When Lysa and Corren finally returned, slipping between trees like shadows, Arya pounced. "Well?" she hissed. "Did you see him? Did you speak with him?" "No," Corren said. "He wasn't near that fire, but they talk of him as a curiosity, a tool. Mance keeps him close to Tormund, or so they say." Lysa's eyes glinted. "They move soon," she added, "to assault the wall from the south. There's talk of climbing and of raiding parties slipping around. If Jon Snow means to turn his cloak back, he'll have to do it before they reach open ground." Arya thought of the wall's height, of the forest stretched before it. "Then we find him before that," she said. "We don't wait for him to find his own chance. We make one." "That," Corren said, "is the first sensible thing you've said tonight." Jon Snow had never quite grown used to the way wildling fires burned. They seemed different from the ones at the wall, less ordered, more desperate. They popped and hissed as damp would caught, sending little showers of sparks into the dark. Men and women sat close, shoulders pressed together, as if they were afraid the flame might vanish if they let go. He sat between Ygritte and Tormund Giantsbane now, feeling the heat on his front and the cold chewing at his back. Ygritte leaned against him, her red hair a tangle that smelled of smoke and pine needles and whatever harsh soap she had last used. Tormund sprawled like a bear with his legs out before him, belly shaking when he laughed, which was often. And there I was, bare-arsed in the snow, with the giantess swinging me by the heels. "You've told this one," Ygritte said, rolling her eyes. "Twice." "Then I'll tell it thrice," Tormund replied cheerfully. "These new ones haven't heard it yet." He jabbed a thumb toward a cluster of newly arrived free folk, men with hard eyes and old scars. "They need to know who's leading them south. They know," one of the newcomers grunted. "They know Mance Rayder wears a crown and plays the fucking harp. You just drink and shout." Tormund's eyes glinted, but he only grinned. "The harp keeps us marching. The drink keeps us from thinking too hard about why." He glanced sidelong at Jon. "What do you say, Lord Snow? Want to tell them about your Crow King?" "I've no king," Jon said automatically. The words sat oddly on his tongue. He had said them before Mance, loudly, to win trust. Every time he did, it still felt like stepping off a cliff. "See," Ygritte said smugly. "He's ours now. I told you. We took him right off your wall and he never looked back." Jon did look back, often, in the privacy of his own head. To the wall, to the cold nights on watch, to the fist of the first men ringed in corpses that rose, to old Bear Mormont's face as the mutineers fell on him, to Corren's last charge, blood freezing on his beard as he forced Jon's hand. He had killed a brother. He had not had a choice, not if he wanted to live long enough to do what Corren had begged him to do. But the memory was a stone in his chest. The newcomers were watching him. One, a thick-shouldered man with a strip of hide tied around his brow, spat into the snow. "I've seen men switch sides," he said. "I've seen them swear before. Some bleed, some don't. You don't bleed easy, Crow. That makes me nervous." "You can cut me if it makes you feel better," Jon said wearily. Ygritte elbowed him. "Don't say stupid things. Tormund. Tell the Thickskull to shut his trap before I shut it for him." Tormund spread his hands. "He's just saying what half the camp thinks, girl. You show up with the king's favor and a crow's face, people get twitchy. They remember rangers burning their crops. They remember heads on spikes." "I remember heads on spikes as well," Jon said, before he could stop himself. "Ned Stark," he did not say. He could not say. Tormund's gaze sharpened for a heartbeat. He said. "I imagine you do." They held one another's eyes for a strange moment. There were things Jon suspected the wildling chief knew but did not say. That this bastard of Winterfell clung to something beneath his furs and false words. That he flinched in certain ways when the talk turned too quickly to slaughter. The camp buzzed on around them. Somewhere on the other side of the fire, a slender man with a sour face and a shaved head was muttering with another wildling. Jon had not paid him much mind. There were so many faces, so many names. But tonight, the man's eyes kept flicking Jon's way, lingering with a sort of measuring hostility. Ygritte noticed. "You see him?" she murmured near Jon's ear. "That one's been watching you all day. He's from up near the Shivering Sea. Doesn't like crows at all, they say. Says you sleep with a sword under your furs." "I do sleep with a sword under my furs," Jon said. "So do you." "Not the same sword," she shot back, smirking. He flushed, despite the cold. "I don't care what he thinks," he muttered. "You should," Tormund interjected, having clearly heard. His voice dropped. "Mance likes you. He sees your use, but Mance doesn't see all. There are some who think we should kill you now, just to be sure the wall doesn't have an extra set of eyes." Jon's muscles tightened. His hand drifted toward Longclaw's hilt before he forced it away. "And you?" he asked. "I think you're either the best bloody spy the Crows ever sent or the stupidest turncloak in history," Tormund said frankly. "Either way, I'd like to see where the story goes. But if it looks like the story ends with my people bleeding because of your choices, I'll gut you myself and hang your balls from my belt." "Fair. Fair," Jon said. He stared into the fire until the flames blurred. They would move soon, down from the frostfangs around the wall's edges, up and over where it was weakest. He had to choose his moment to run. Too early, and he'd never learn enough. Too late, and the wildlings would be on the wall and the brothers would die screaming. Somewhere between was a narrow path he could barely see. He wondered, not for the first time, what Robb was doing far south. Whether his brother still rode at the head of an army or lay like a broken toy on some battlefield. News reached them in fragments. A whisper here, a boast there. The last he'd heard, Robb was marching toward the twins to mend a rift. Jon did not like the sound of that. He did not like anything that smelled of relying on other men's honor. "You look like a man with ghosts gnawing his ears," Ygritte said, nudging him. "You're not here, Jon Snow. You're back with your kneelers." "I'm thinking," he said. "Don't think too hard," she replied. You'll fall off the edge of your thoughts and break your neck." He almost smiled. Then, beyond the circle of light between two tree trunks, he saw movement. A darker shadow among shadows, a glint like eyes. When he turned his head, it was gone. He told himself it was only the forest watching. The forest watched everyone up here. The tree was an old one, its trunk thick and rough under Arya's cheek. Sap stuck to her gloves, resinous and sharp. She had climbed higher than she strictly needed to, but up here the branches grew thick enough to hide her, while still letting her see clear to the heart of the camp. Below, wildlings moved like ants around the clustered fires. From this angle, their weapons seemed smaller, their boasts fainter. The giants were what drew the eye, their great shaggy forms looming even when they crouched. But Arya's gaze kept flicking back to one particular circle of light. There he was. Jon Snow sat hunched near the flames, black curls dampened by snow, face thinner than she remembered but still familiar. He wore wildling furs now instead of black wool, a heavy cloak and a rough-spun shirt, but Longclaw's hilt peeked from under his arm. A sword that fine did not belong in this camp. It shone like a bit of Southron summer caught in winter. He laughed at something the red-haired spearwife beside him said, though the sound did not travel this high. Arya's hand tightened on the branch until her nails dug into the bark. He looked older, harder. There were new lines near his eyes, a new way he held his shoulders, as if braced against blows even when he seemed relaxed. "That's him, then," Corren murmured from a lower branch. Arya almost hadn't heard him climb up, which annoyed her. "Of course that's him," she whispered back. "You think I wouldn't know my own brother?" "People change," Corren said. "War changes them fastest of all." He wasn't wrong. Arya had seen it in herself, in the mirror of the pool. The way her face had sharpened, her eyes gone narrow. But there were some things war didn't touch. The set of Jon's jaw when he was determined. The way he tilted his head when listening hard. She could feel his presence from here, a tug in her chest like the old pull of Nymeria's bond. "He's too far in," she said quietly. "Look how they sit around him. They'd notice if he vanished." "They already notice him," Corren said. "Half the camp sees a crow among them and wonders when he'll sprout a pair of black wings. That's good. Suspicion breeds questions. Questions lead to talk. Talk we can use." "I don't care about talk." Arya's throat felt tight. "I want to get him out." "And I want to live forever," Corren replied. "We both will be disappointed if we insist on what we want rather than what can be." He shifted his weight. "Listen, Lisa's down there now, 2 fires away, wearing another face. She heard them planning a raid on a horse breeder south of the wall, near Queen's Crown. They'll send a party ahead with climbers. Tormund, Ygritte, likely Jon. That kind of moonless chaos is when men slip away and don't come back." Arya's heart leaped. "Then we wait until then." "Yes," Corren sounded satisfied. "We'll shadow the raiding party. When they make their move, we'll make ours. A suspicious man, an accident, a cut throat in the confusion. These things happen. Jon Snow can vanish, wounded or dead to their eyes, and find himself with his loving sister instead." "Don't call me loving," Arya said automatically. "You're climbing trees in a blizzard to stare at him like a starving cat at a butcher's window," Corren said. "You are very loving, little wolf. In your way." She wanted to argue, but down below Jon straightened, and the argument died on her tongue. He had turned his head slightly, gaze sweeping the tree line. For an instant she thought he was looking up at her, straight through the needles and snow. Her breath caught. His eyes passed over her, moved on. He sensed something, perhaps a wrongness in the way the forest watched. He said something to Ygritte, his hand brushing Longclaw's hilt. The spearwife frowned, followed his gaze, saw nothing, laughed. Arya's chest hurt. "How long?" she asked. "A night, 2. They move soon." Corren's hand settled lightly on her boot to keep her from shifting too much. Patience, patience. She tried to learn that in Braavos, waiting at tables, begging for scraps, listening to lies. It had never come easy. The wolf in her preferred sudden movement, teeth and flight. Below, Jon eased farther from the fire, as if the heat offended him. His shadow stretched long on the snow. Arya memorized the line of it. "I'm done waiting when arrows start flying," she said. "I won't watch him die twice." The raid went wrong in exactly the way it had to. They moved south under cover of cloud, a lean party of climbers and raiders. Tormund, Ygritte, Jon, and 24 others who trusted snow and shadow more than open field. They skirted the wall where it curved and dipped, finding the places where ice had sunk a little, stones jutting. The climb was a blur of frostbitten fingers and grunts, of axes biting into ice, of ropes straining. Arya watched from below, teeth chattering, as their dark shapes hauled themselves up and over. Her own fingers itched to climb. She'd always liked heights, but she knew better than to demand a place among wildlings. She would go another way. By the time Jon and the raiders slipped down the southern side, Arya and the Faceless Men were already moving along the base, keeping pace with patchy moonlight and the occasional distant glimmer of a torch above. They knew, broadly, where the horse breeder's holdfast lay. Aemon's maps had shown them, but the exact path was a matter of following tracks and instinct. The holdfast, when they reached it, was a squat, lonely thing. A tower, a yard, a low stable that smelled of oats and manure. Lanterns burned dimly inside. A dog barked once, then fell quiet. "Stay back," Lisa murmured. "We don't need more bodies cluttering this mess." The wildlings came out of the trees like wolves, silent until the last moment. Then there was shouting, the crash of breaking wood, the panicked whinny of horses. Fire flared as someone thrust a torch at the thatch. Arrows hissed from the tower's slit windows. Arya's heart hammered. It was chaos. Men swearing, women screaming, horses bucking. In that chaos, a man with a brown beard and suspicion in his eyes turned his bow not toward the holdfast but toward Jon. "You ride too well for a crow," he snarled, voice audible even at a distance. "You look too much south when you think no one's watching." Jon had just loosed an arrow at a man on the tower. He spun, longclaw half-drawn, as the wildling archer let fly. The shaft streaked toward his chest. Arya was already moving. The world narrowed to the arrow's flight, to the line between Jon's ribs. She sprinted from the trees, snow spraying under her boots, dagger leaping into her hand. She was too far. She knew it. She couldn't stop the arrow. A second shaft took the first in mid-flight, knocking it aside. The first arrow spun off into the dark. The second buried itself in the snow at Jon's feet. Corren stepped from the shadows behind the suspicious wildling, bow still vibrating in his hand. His face was not Corren's now, but the sour-browed stranger from 2 fires over, the one who had grumbled about crows. The man he stood behind had just enough time to register the wrongness before Corren's knife slid between his ribs. "Told you he was one of us?" Corren growled in a rough accent, letting the body thump to the ground. "You can't even shoot straight." Elsewhere, the holdfast's defender screamed as a spear caught him in the gut. Smoke billowed from the stable roof. Horses shrieked. It was all wrong. It was all exactly what it needed to be, if Jon's path was to bend where it must. Jon swung back toward the tower, jaw clenched. His eyes skimmed the tree line for half a heartbeat. Arya froze, heart in her throat. He did not see her, or if he did, he dismissed her as one more shadow in a night full of them. In the end, it wasn't the raid that decided things. It was what came after. They rode away under a bruised sky, 3 horses lighter, saddlebags heavier with stolen grain. Smoke smeared the horizon behind them. An old man lay dead in his yard, his face turned toward the stars. Jon's stomach turned every time he thought of him. Ygritte rode so close their shoulders brushed, but even her warmth could not push away the cold inside. "He was trying to live," Jon muttered. "We were the ones who brought death to his door." "Crows brought death to ours for years," she shot back. "You think the kneelers didn't eat while we starved? He had horses. We have children who freeze. Don't you dare pity him and not them." He bit his tongue. She wasn't wrong. That made it worse. They made camp in a shallow hollow ringed with trees. The air tasted of smoke and old snow.
Tormund barked orders, men strippet sadles, checked tack.
Jon unsaddled his own horse, fingers working mechanically. He could feel eyes on him again, that prickling awareness between his shoulder blades. When the attack came, it came from above. A shape dropped from a tree, landing lightly in the snow behind him. Jon spun, half a heartbeat behind the danger. A dagger flashed toward his throat. He knocked the wrist aside, stepped in, elbow driving toward the attacker's ribs. The dagger flicked, changing angle, nicking his forearm. He hissed, felt warmth under his sleeve. His foot hooked, aiming to sweep his opponent's legs. They danced like that for moments that felt longer. Steel flashing, snow spraying, breath harsh. Jon's body remembered Ser Roderick's drills, Corren's harsh lessons. The other moved with a speed and fluidity that felt almost Braavosi. A smaller body, lighter, harder to drive back. Enough! Tormund roared. Torches flared. Jon saw his attacker clearly for the first time. She was small, hood thrown back, dark hair plastered to her cheeks, gray eyes blazing. Her dagger hovered a hand's breadth from his belly. His sword tip rested at her throat. For a heartbeat, neither moved. The world held its breath. Arya, Jon said. The name cracked something in him. He had not spoken it aloud since he'd taken the black. Her mouth trembled. You're slow, she said. I could have killed you 3 times. Then the night rushed back in. Wildlings shouting, bows being drawn, Ygritte's sharp intake of breath. Somewhere behind Arya, Corren and Lysa emerged from the trees, cloaks thrown back, hands spread to show they held no bare steel. Put the blades down, Tormund snarled, or I'll have my people fill your hides with arrows and feed what's left to the crows. Everything nearly came apart in that instant. Wildling archers knocked arrows. Axes lifted. Ygritte's hand went to her bow, eyes narrowing. Arya did not flinch, though Jon felt the tremor in the air around her, as if the whole forest were a bowstring pulled taut. She's my sister, he said, voice rough. Arya Stark. The name rippled through the campfire circle like heat. Some spat, some murmured. Mance Rayder himself stepped into view then, drawn by the commotion. Cloak of patchwork furs, sword at his hip, a harp strapped across his back even now. Robb Stark's whelp? One man muttered. What's she doing on our side of the wall? Robb Stark is king in the north, Arya snapped. And I'm not his whelp. Mance tilted his head, studying her. I've heard of you, he said. The little wolf. The one who ran from King's Landing while the lions roared. His gaze slid to Corren and Lysa and the space behind Arya. And you're not what you seem either. Lysa smiled, slow and devoid of warmth. Few people are, Your Grace, she said, giving him the title as if it belonged to a particularly clever thief. We are travelers. We came looking for Jon Snow. Everyone comes looking for Jon Snow these days, Tormund grumbled. Crows, girls, gods know who else. What do you want from him? Mance asked. Arya looked at Jon. Snow clung to his lashes, melting slowly. She had imagined this meeting 100 ways. Running into his arms, shouting, snarling. None of them had involved knives at throats and a wildling king watching like a cat watching mice. To save our brother, she said. The other one, Robb, he's walking into a trap. Walder Frey means to kill him at a feast. I saw it. You saw it. Mance's brow furrowed. How? In a place where faces hang on walls and gods drink water, Lysa said lightly. Trust that part of the tale or don't. It makes no difference to the truth beneath it. The twins simmer with treachery. If someone does not put a knife in the right men first, half the north will drown in its own blood. And you need Jon Snow for this? Mance asked, skeptical. He's a good sword, fair marksman, fond of brooding, but he's mine for now. I didn't haul him over the wall to let some little wolf drag him back south because she had a bad dream. Arya bristled. Corren's hand brushed her wrist. A warning. Not yet. Jon stepped in. If Walder Frey kills Robb, he said, the war changes. The North falls to pieces. The Lannisters gain a freer hand to send men north. You think Stannis Baratheon will be enough to save you, even if he comes? You think the Wall will hold better with the North leaderless and squabbling? Mance's eyes narrowed. You still think like a crow, he said. I think like someone who's seen what's coming, Jon snapped. The dead don't care if a man bent the knee or not. They'll fill your camp with whites as quick as they'll fill ours. But the living can make it easier for them. Or harder. He thought of the fist, of whites climbing over their own fallen comrades. He spoke more harshly than he meant. If the North collapses, the Wall fails sooner, not later. That's bad for all of us. Ah, Mance said softly. So that's your game. You want my man back so you can shore up the Kneelers' line and make sure they're still there to die for your Wall. Jon held his gaze. I want my brother to live, he said. Same as I want his. Same as you want your people to cross south without turning into corpses. Those wants aren't enemies. You swear pretty... for a crow, someone muttered. Mance's mouth quirked. He does, he admitted. He looked at Arya. If I let him walk away, will you stay? You and your shadow friends. His gaze flicked toward Lysa and Corren. The more knives I have for the dead, the better. Arya felt the Faceless Men shift behind her. The air seemed to grow colder. We go together, she said. Jon, me them, or I go alone. And I promise you, if I go alone, I'll still gut Frey and Bolton. But Jon will be useful in more pieces on the right side of the Wall than he will be frozen on yours. It was a bluff of sorts. She did not truly know if she could reach Robb without Jon. The Wall's ravens and roads made him a bridge she needed. But she'd learned long ago that sometimes the sharpest lie was one-edged in truth. Mance studied her a long moment. The fire cracked. Someone coughed. Snow fell slow and steady. The old gods must be laughing, he said at last. They send me a crow who keeps his vows better than half the Kneelers and a little wolf with more teeth than sense. I've a mind to keep both, just to spite whatever game they're playing. You don't like gods much, Lysa observed. I liked them fine when they stayed in their trees and stones and left men to their music, Mance said. Now I see too many things walking that should be sleeping. I'm less charitable. He sighed. Fine, go, he told Jon. Take your sister and her shadows. Climb back to your wall. Sing whatever songs you like in your halls. But if they hang you as a turncloak when you get there, don't expect me to shed a tear. Tormund swore. You're letting him walk? Just like that? Not just like that, Mance said. To Jon. You'll leave Longclaw. Jon's hand tightened on the sword's hilt. His father's gift, no, Mormont's gift, wait at his side. Steel that had drunk white blood and wildling blood alike. It was more a part of him now than the cloak on his shoulders. He thought of Robb crowned, of Arya, watching him with eyes widened by cold and something else, of the promise he'd made, quietly, to himself and to Corren, to return, to warn, to fight. He unbuckled the sword belt and held it out. The air seemed to thicken. Keep it safe, he said roughly. I'll be back for it. Mance took the blade, weighing it. I doubt that, he said. But I'll enjoy the steel while I can. After, when they had left the wildling fires behind and found a sheltered hollow among low hills, Arya lit a small fire and huddled close. Corren and Lysa watched the tree line in opposite directions, knives ready. Torrhen had gone ahead to scout a path toward the wall that would keep them from crossing directly under any of Mance's sentries. You shouldn't have given up the sword, Arya said abruptly. It was yours. It was the old bear's, Jon replied. He flexed his empty hand, feeling the absence like a missing limb. And if I'd argued, Mance might have changed his mind about letting us go at all. You always give things up for honor, she said, or for other people. First you went to the wall instead of coming south with us, now this. It's stupid. He looked at her, really looked. The last time he'd seen her, she'd been small and skinny and raw, swinging a wooden sword in the yard. She was still small, but she was no longer a child. Hard lines had settled around her mouth. Her eyes held more years than her face. "You're alive," he said quietly. "When they told me what happened at King's Landing, I thought, I know what they told you," she cut in. "I was there. I saw Father die. I saw—" She stopped, jaw tightening. "I ran. I've been running ever since. I ran across the sea and learned how to make other people stop breathing. Now I'm done running away. I'm running toward, this time." "Toward what?" She stared into the fire. "Toward Robb," she said. "Toward that hall I saw. If we're too late." "We won't be," Jon said, though he had no right to be sure. "We'll make it." "You gave a god your death," she said abruptly. "Or I did. I told him I'd pay if he helped. At the house." He felt the fine hairs on his arms lift. "What did you do, Arya?" he asked. She told him, haltingly, about the pool, about the faces, about the bargain. She did not have all the words for the things she had seen and done, the quiet horror and the strange piece of service to death. Jon listened without interrupting, his face stark. "So if we save Robb," he said slowly, "if we kill Frey and Bolton and whoever else needs killing, this many-faced god will come for you? Or for someone of equal weight?" she said. "That's what they said. The scales have to balance." "Someone," he repeated. She looked at him, and in her eyes he saw the flare of the same reckless courage that had driven her to thrust a training sword at princes twice her size. Scared him more now. "No," he said. "You don't get to say that," she snapped. "You don't get to tell a god no." "I'm not telling him," Jon said. "I'm telling you, whatever you promised, we'll find another way to pay it. The dead have taken enough Starks. They don't get you too." She laughed, a harsh, small sound. "Big brother, giving orders. Someone has to," he said. "Father's gone. Robb's, wherever he is. Bran and Rickon." His throat closed around the names. "I won't lose you. Not to a bargain you made when you were half a child in a foreign temple." "You won't have a choice," she said. "When he comes, he comes. That's what they say. Then we'll see who he finds first," Jon replied. He meant it lightly, but something in the words rang like a struck bell, deep and ominous. The fire popped, sending a little spray of sparks up toward the uncaring stars. They moved south under a sky the color of old bone. Jon's arm throbbed where Arya's blade had nicked him. The cut was shallow, but the cold made every wound feel deeper. Arya kept pace at his side, her shorter legs eating the ground with tireless determination. Corren and Lysa ranged ahead and behind, eyes and ears and knives. Torrhen reappeared twice each day, slipping out of the trees to report on any wildling sign. "Raider's men keep to the west," he said on the second evening. "They think you've gone that way, back toward the Frostfangs. They won't look for you near Eastwatch for a while." "That's where they'd be wrong," Jon said. "They did not take the old tunnel again. Too slow, too easy to be trapped in an ice throat. Instead, they angled toward Castle Black proper, trusting in Aemon's warning and Sam's arrangements. Snow fell thicker as they drew nearer, cloaking their shapes, muffling their steps. On the last morning, the wall rose before them, a pale cliff in the dawn light. Smoke trailed from Castle Black's chimneys, dark smears against the sky. Ravens wheeled, calling. "Stop there!" A voice rang out from the top of the gatehouse as they approached. Figures moved atop the wall. Small, black, weapon-shaped. Bows likely. "Name yourselves." "Jon Snow," Jon shouted, stepping ahead of the others. "Of the Night's Watch." "Liar," someone muttered above. "He's dead." Or turned. The words drifted down like falling snow. Arya's hand went to her dagger. Jon reached out without looking and caught her wrist. "Easy," he murmured. A pause. Then another voice, one Jon recognized even at this distance. Dolorous Ed, sounding as miserable as ever. "If he's a white, he's the talkative sort," Ed called. "You ever heard of a white giving his name before he clawed your face off, Hob?" "Shut up, Ed," another man snapped. Jon forced his voice to carry. I rode with the wildlings on Corren's command, he shouted. Lord Commander Mormont is dead. The fist was lost. The wildlings mass under Mance Rayder, tens of thousands strong. I've come back with what I've learned. Let me in or hang me and be done, but don't leave me out here to freeze. Silence. Wind whistled along the wall, lifting stray flakes. Then, faintly, "Open the bloody gate," someone said. The great wooden doors groaned. A small postern cracked open first, spilling a wedge of warmer air. Jon stepped through, dragging Arya with him. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to the feel of the threshold under his boots, the sense of being inside again, under stone and timber that belonged to his vows. Brothers crowded the yard, drawn by the commotion. Ed was there, his long face longer than ever. Bowen Marsh stood stiff-backed near the center, red mustache bristling. PYP, Gren, others Jon knew by sight and smell. Sam pushed his way through them all like a surprisingly determined snowdrift. "Jon," he breathed. "Jon." Jon might have fallen if Sam hadn't reached him. They clapped each other's shoulders, the embrace awkward, armor and cloaks getting in the way. Jon felt something in his spine loosen that had been clenched since the moment he'd ridden away with Mance. "You're bleeding," Sam said, spotting the stain on his sleeve. "You're hurt." "It's nothing," Jon said. "A scratch." His eyes went to Maester Aemon, who stood near the back, supported by a young steward. "Maester, I kept my word." "You came back," Aemon said. His blind eyes seemed to glow. "That is more than most men manage when they go into the dark." Bowen Marsh cleared his throat. "We don't know he came back loyal," he said. "He rode with the enemy. He laid with them, fought with them, helped them take a holdfast from good men. You said that yourself, Samwell." Sam flushed. "Lord Commander Mormont is dead," Marsh snapped. "And someone has to make hard choices in his place." "You can argue about hanging him later," Arya cut in. Every head in the yard turned toward her. She stood beside Jon, snow spattered on her cloak, hood thrown back. Her face was dirty, her hair tangled, but she carried herself like someone who expected people to listen. "Who in the seven hells is this?" Bowen demanded. "Arya Stark," Maester Aemon said, before anyone else could speak. "Daughter of Lord Eddard. Sister to King Robb. The world sends me all its strays at the end." "A girl?" someone blurted. "Hard to miss that," Arya shot back. "You going to keep talking about me as if I'm not standing here? Or are you going to listen while your enemies march on you from both sides?" "Both sides," Ed repeated faintly. "I don't like the sound of that." Jon straightened. The time for bone-deep weariness, for the pull of the fire and sleep, would come later. For now, he had to be the man Corren had hoped he would be, the man Aemon and Mormont had gambled on. "Mance Rayder moves on the wall," he said, pitching his voice so it reached every brother and bounced off the wall. "Giants, mammoths, raiders by the thousands. He means to hit us at Castle Black hard and send smaller bands around to climb where your patrols are thinnest. If we don't prepare, if we don't gather every man we can, he'll swarm us. And while you're fighting, the dead will come behind him." "The dead?" someone scoffed. "You expect us to." "Ask Sam how the fist fell," Jon cut in. "Ask the ravens who returned half-frozen, bearing no messages because the men who carried them were already whites." Eyes turned to Sam. He shuffled, swallowed, and nodded miserably. "It's true," he said. We saw them. And in the south," Arya said, seizing the pause. "Walder Frey sharpens knives for my brother, for your king's ally, for the one man holding the north together while you sit arguing about who to hang. You think you can afford to ignore that? When the Lannisters finish with Robb, do you think they'll leave you alone up here? They'll send men, or they'll send nothing at all, and leave you to starve while they feast. We take no part in the wars of the realm," Bowen Marsh said, but the words sounded smaller now. "You're in them whether you like it or not," Jon said. He could feel Arya's presence at his side, like a second blade. The Faceless Men had melted into the yard's edges, faces ordinary, unremarkable, watching with hooded eyes. Stannis Baratheon comes north to claim your support. The wildlings come south to break your wall. The Freys and Lannisters carve up the riverlands. You can't stand apart on a wall that's crumbling from both ends. What do you suggest? Aemon asked quietly. Jon drew a breath. First you listen, then you send ravens. To Stannis, to any northern lords you can still reach. To Robb if we're in time. He glanced at Arya. You let my sister and me speak to those who will hear us. And you let 3 experts move as they must to make sure certain men never rise from their beds again. Bowen Marsh stared at him, color high in his cheeks. Experts, he repeated. In killing, Jon said. A shiver went through the yard, like a draft. We don't have to like what needs doing, Arya said. We just have to do it before Frey does. The dawn light brightened, turning the ice of the wall faintly blue. Snow swirled, eddying around them, a curtain that might hide them from whatever gods watched. Men shifted their weight, looked at one another, then back at Jon and Arya. Maester Aemon's blind eyes lifted toward the sky. It seems, he said softly, that the world has decided to use the Night's Watch for more than watching. Again. He inclined his head, first toward Jon, then toward Arya. Very well, he said. Tell me what you need. Then we will see how far our black cloaks can stretch before they tear.